Hi everyone. I'm going to be talking about why the Australian state of Victoria is a complete and total shithole. I have lived in Victoria my entire life in Melbourne, and I wanted to explain why the state is a total shithole, but especially Melbourne. I've already talked in previous videos about why Melbourne is a shithole, but I wanted to expand further on why the state in general is also a shithole, and also the way the Victorian government works. 75% of Victoria's population lives in Melbourne, the largest city and capital. A lot of people from country areas move to Melbourne because of more opportunities in Melbourne. Most areas in country Victoria are just not that great to live in. Lack of opportunities, lack of jobs, lack of infrastructure, lack of public transport, etc. However, Melbourne still has a lot of these problems, but at least it is better than a lot of the country areas. But with my political beliefs, on social issues, I'm centre on social issues, but on fiscal issues, I lean more to the left. So I just wanted to say that because I'm going to talk about the politics in Victoria. Victoria is one of the most left-wing states in the country, if not the left-wing state. Actually, yeah, Victoria is the most leftist state in the country. And when I say leftist, I mean authoritarian, politically correct, feminist, just all that garbage. And Melbourne is the home of it. Melbourne is the epicenter of social justice warriors, feminism in this country. Melbourne is the Portland, Oregon of Australia. Like, even parts of Melbourne are just full of hipsters. For instance, Fitzroy, Brunswick, etc. are just hipsters everywhere. I mean, I do like going to those areas sometimes, because there's good food there, like hipsters at least have good taste, I guess, when it comes to food. Maybe that's, nothing else. But, the point is, like, some areas of Melbourne, like especially inner city, are just full of hipsters. Hipsters everywhere, and just their brainwashed mentality. In Australia, there's been all this talk about Safe Schools program, and Victoria has been leading the charge on it. Basically, what the Safe Schools program is, it's about indoctrinating school students about LGBT issues and, correlating that with the bullying epidemic, because there is a bullying epidemic in Australia as well, because, this country... I'm not just I'm just not blaming, Gen Z or whatever, but, there is a cultural problem in this country now. People just don't really have much respect anymore. And when I say respect, I don't mean like, oh, you must respect your elders or any bullshit like that. I mean just, having respect for, anyone, like other people, and, like not, at least not treating people like trash, like bullying them and shit like that, because it is an epidemic in schools now. It doesn't seem to be getting any better, and with social media, it's just compounding the problem, because at least over a decade ago or whatever, if, you're bullied at school, at least you could escape from it coming home, but, now a lot of kids are getting bullied outside of school. So I wanted to say that, bullying is a huge problem in Australia, but the way the government is addressing it with this safe schools crap, and, that's not the way to go. And the reason why I say the safe schools programs are crap is not because I have anything against LGBT people. I'm actually I'm pro-LGBT, basically, like people should be able to do what they want, whatever. Live your life how you want. But my issue with it is how they're pushing it on kids, like... you can make a case that, sex education, you can be taught to, say like later in high school or whatever. But the thing is, with these safe school initiatives, they're trying to push it on primary kid, like 5-year-olds and that. And I just think I mean, well, I don't. It's just a complete joke and shouldn't be happening, and it's just purely disgusting. And it's no surprise that Victoria is the at the forefront of it, with because Victoria is the most progressive state, and when I say progressive, I mean authoritarian and, fake liberal. That's what it is, just like Portland, Oregon, and all these, the West Coast elite in the US mentality. They're self-righteous and think they're better than everyone else when they're not. They're just fake liberals, People like Martin Luther King and real liberals like that would be spinning in their graves if they knew what these people were like. Another reason why the safe schools programs are a load of bullshit is because they push a lot of feminism as well, and basically the feminist indoctrination, especially in Victoria, is just total horseshit. It's just unbelievable. There's ads on TV all the time in Victoria where they even have kids in the ad, right? Like, I don't know if they're brother or sister or what, I assume they are, but maybe like 6 or 7 years old or whatever. And, they're trying to blame that kid, right? Like the 7-year-old boy for, domestic violence or whatever. And there's all this, peddlers, what do you call it? Peddled, putting females on a pedestal, and it's not just putting women on a pedestal, but it's putting girls on a pedestal at the expense of boys. So the indoctrination just starts early in life, and you see it ads on TV all the time in Victoria, and even on the freeways. They have these huge billboards on the freeways. I've seen it several times where it says, what is it? Respect women. There's this whole campaign in Victoria by the Victorian government about respect women, and it's a total joke. Like, it's total sexism. The Victorian government is a totally sexist organisation. They're pushing all this anti-male crap, billboards on the freeways, respect women, call it out, they say, and they're trying to blame all men for domestic violence. It's a total joke, and yeah, it's just total horse shit. Completely unacceptable, and I really can't stand it. Pretty much every day now, I just can't stand living in Victoria, because of all this bullshit. And, completely unacceptable. And going on about those ads, public service announcements, obviously. There's even an ad where there's a guy on the train, right? Like, on the train, and he's just looking at some woman, just looking at him for a bit. And then they have like a voiceover of what each person's thinking in their minds, and it's like the woman is saying, well, is he going to rape me? Or, I forget what, but, and then there's another guy that says, oh, I think he's looking at her creepy, and then the guy walks in front, blocks his view of the woman, as if to say, don't stare at her, like he's being a white knight. And then they have a thing on the screen that says, respect women, call it out, Like the government's saying you can't even look at women now, and Bearing, Bearing, he's a great channel, like an Aussie YouTuber. He did a video about this. It was hilarious and spot on. So yeah, go and check him out as well. I guess type in Bearing Victoria or whatever, Bearing Melbourne. Yeah. And those billboards on the freeways, I've seen them at bus stops as well. Like, they're everywhere, like it's a joke. And most of the, the hate-filled feminists, because that's what feminism is. Feminism is a hate movement, a revenge movement, That's all it is. And most of the feminists in Australia are actually come from Melbourne, whether it's Clementine Ford, etc., and others, and a lot of them are based around Brunswick and Fitzroy in that area, and they just spew their crap, The good news, though, is that Clementine Ford has received a lot of backlash, and like when she did a talk in some school, a lot of the kids actually walked out because she was trying to portray this crap about feminist crap, and even a lot of the girls did a walkout on her. So yeah, it's a positive sign. Like Generation Z is rejecting a lot of this feminist crap. It's mainly millennials and other groups are pushing this crap, and Generation Z is just going against it, especially in America. Like in Australia, it's happening as well, but yeah, like people are sick of feminism. It's a complete joke. It's a hypocrisy movement, and yeah, like like it this whole idea about male privilege, like it's total myth. Like most of the people that I see on the streets that are homeless, the large majority of them are men, and then when you hear all this stuff about male privilege, like it's just like they kick you in the face. It's like a massive kick in the face whenever you hear crap like that. And Melbourne is the real engine of it in Australia. I had one experience in Melbourne where someone was acting like a white knight prick. Like I was at the train station, I was just going through the ticket turnstile, and I didn't know that someone was going to walk through. And the transit pig told me off and said, "Oh, there's a pregnant woman there." And then I yelled at him because I was 18 at the time, and I just screamed my head off and yelled at him, and yeah, he was a real punk ass white knight. But yeah, that's an example of this trash mentality and feminists and that in Victoria, in Melbourne, and how women always get pedestalized. And I notice it a lot at nightclubs as well. Like in Melbourne, if you're a woman, I'm sure this happens in a lot of other countries, but it just seems to be very amplified in Melbourne, where if you're a female and you go to a nightclub, you get treated like royalty. But if you're a guy who goes to a nightclub, you get treated like absolute trash. And, these bouncers are just total white knight shitheads. And, they look at you if you're a guy and, they size you up and, they act like pricks. And that's another reason why I don't go to nightclubs anymore. They're just total garbage dumps and totally gynocentric places. And the gynocentrism is just fueled by bouncers. It's a very toxic environment. And a lot of the females that go to these nightclubs, especially Melbourne, are just totally self-absorbed and, not kind of females you'd want to touch with a 12-foot pole anyway. Positive news is that feminism is losing a lot of popularity. So, yeah, that's great. Yeah, but, it's still a problem, I guess, obviously, especially when you live in Melbourne. You just see it everywhere, and the government keeps pushing all the crap. And, the Victorian government's videos about it, respect women, call it out videos, they actually disable the comments, and there's a lot more dislikes than likes, so, it's a joke, like the whole thing is just a joke. And, yeah, I haven't liked living in Victoria for a while now, because of these fake leftist policies. Another issue I have with Melbourne is the public transport. It's just a total joke, and the Victorian government is it's responsible for it because they always politicise public transport. In the lead up to every election, they just say, like Labor. Well, Liberal, whatever. Liberal will say, Labor is responsible for this. And then Labor will say Liberal is responsible for that. And they care more about having the moral high ground over the other party than they do about making any positive changes. And that's what's disgusting about politics in Australia. But you see it in Victoria a lot, like especially when it comes to public transport. The reason the public transport in Victoria is so shit and so dilapidated is because the Victorian government doesn't get off their ass and do something. They're too busy bitching and moaning to each other like school kids, about who's the better one, who has the biggest dick, blah, 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 blah. And, it's like a dick comparing contest, and they're all just a joke, Yeah, so the Victorian government is largely responsible for it, and the public transport in Melbourne is so shit. Like pretty much need a car, even if you live near the city, kind of. It's a joke. The trams are a joke. Just the Victorian government is extremely incompetent. They have been for a while now. Another thing I've realised about the Victorian government is there's the state insurer for road accidents, right? They actually don't, a lot of the time, they don't pay out to, like to victims of road incidents if their condition was pre existing. And that's a total joke. Like, there should be laws against insurance companies. I don't care whether it's a public insurer or private insurer, You're not allowed to discriminate based on pre-existing conditions. It's just unacceptable. Even in America, they've had laws against this since 2014. Like, it's in Obamacare, like, even though I don't like most of Obamacare, at least they have that part in it, like, you can't deny coverage because of pre-existing conditions. And, yet the public insurer for road accidents in Victoria, they can discriminate for pre-existing conditions, and they do so often, That's another reason why I hate this shithole, like, because George Gargasolis, who, in Burke Street, like, people are affected by it, and you find out, I don't know specifically for this case, but you find out the state insurer doesn't pay out, for pre-existing conditions, and who knows if some of them affected in Burke Street, weren't paid out or whatever, It's just a total horseshit joke, and, like, life is in Melbourne is stressful enough as it is without state insurers not covering people who should be covered. So, yeah, that's, I wanted to rant about that. Jerry Seinfeld once said that Melbourne is the anus of the world. He was totally spot on, and I reckon I'll close the video with that, that great quote. Thanks everyone for watching. Definitely like, comment, and subscribe. When you subscribe, click the bell so you're notified whenever there's new videos. Share this video, share it around. Check out my other content. There'll be more videos coming soon.